Okay, I'll ask members of council to take their seat if they could, please. Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. If somebody would be so kind as to present a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Seconded by Councillor Lauer. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we got to do some fun stuff. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for allowing us once again for our annual meetup and presentation of the awards for the Orillia Santa Claus Parade, which had a great day. Best parade day we've seen in a while, and of course the crowds are great. So, and so were the floats, and we have all the winners this year by the judges' decisions. Special thanks, of course, to the Chamber of Commerce Yuletide Committee, who helped us out for months leading up to this. We have Eleanor Tinney, who is our chairman. It's hard to see over there. Bob Carnes for bands. Joan Cavanaugh, she's been on the committee for probably 40 years. 40 years. She took off to the islands in the Caribbean and came back and finished off the race. She had about 5 years before that, right? So it was great. We have John Cook, in charge of Santa's letters and a host of other things. We also have Roger Lippard, where's Roger? He looks like Roger, same haircut. We have also Peggy Foley, who's in charge of the dresses and such. We have Dean Beers, Chamber President, who sits on the committee. Yep. Mark Ferguson, Alan LaFontaine, the Managing Director of the Chamber of Commerce. And Alan this year stepped up to help out with the marshalling of the parade, which is where we tell you all to go nicely. You know, we put the signs out on the numbers. And I had two new people, Ken Graham and Mark Ferguson, join us. There's Ken. Thank you very much for starting a new committee in that part. And of course, Wanda Pierce, OPP, and Scott Williams, OPP, as well as Jan Phillips, who does all the photography and the judging. They did a great job, and without this, all their efforts, this wouldn't happen. So, also like to thank the OPP staff and auxiliaries, the Orillia Fire volunteers and students. They sent out 26 fire students. It was a great help because keeping the control of everybody is an interesting thing to do that day, to be nice. The Orillia Public Works, of course, help us out. Kiwanis Club Bucket Brigade, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 34, we have our thank you party and a band jam after the effect. And Orillia Light and Power as they pull Santa's sleigh. So thank you for all those people who help out. Okay, now it starts. We're going to start with the large commercial. I'm going to send the mayor down to do your job again here. This is the presentation. So when your group gets called, come on down to the front of the stage here, and we have a photo op with the mayor and our chairman and your group. So we always do the runner-up first. The runner-up this year for large commercial was float number 39, Christmas Country, which is Pure Country. And we did leave a message that it was at 6 o'clock. If they show up at 7, you can... And in first place for a large commercial this year, float number 57, Family Christmas with Shoppers Drug Mart. Congratulations to Shoppers Drug Mart. He takes it back. We're re-gifting that part. Okay. For small commercial, which is less than 25 employees, the runner-up this year was float number 73, the Crank and Sprocket. And their theme was healthy family lifestyle. They've got their spot right down there by the Royal Oak. And judge's choice for first place in small commercial was Fielding Drywall Christmas Gingerbread House, float number 72. Yes, it's edible walls, edible ginger walls. Yes. Next is the youth groups, and runner-up this year was float number 48, the Mariposa Gymnastics Club. Okay, if they show up at 7, call us. Okay. All right. And in first place this year was float number 18, Taps Performing Arts. Okay. Okay, congratulations to Taps Performing Arts for youth group. Next. Next, we have our service clubs and social clubs and local organizations. The runner-up this year was float number 46. That's Orillia Metal Detecting Club. And Family is a Treasure. They will be scouring all the parking lots after a snowstorm for your keys for the car. What about the big one? What about the big? You're right. And in first place, number 68, Lakehead University. They've gone home already. Okay. They'll maybe be here at 7 like the rest of them. For religious groups, the runner-up this year was float number 85, St. Theseus, thank you, Anglican Church with the A team. I'll have you know English is my 5th language every morning. And in first place was the Connexus Community Church, a brand new member to our community. Okay, in this group, the final one, almost the final one, walking groups and horses. The runners-up this year were Express Yourself performers with kids performing for fun. Where are all the kids? They're out having fun.
This is one of my fire students, so I suppose she counts.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much. And in first place, not unusual, number 69, the North River Riders. Say horse. And the final trophy. Oh, hey, take it. Santa's Choice, the best overall float in this year's Santa Claus Parade was float number 56. Orillia Floor Fashion's Best Christmas Ever with bears and all. Lots of bears. Everybody liked all those teddy bears. That goes on Dean's desk. I'm moving. Well, everyone, thank you very much again for all your efforts out there. It's the public likes what you do, and so did the judges. So congratulations to all, and have a merry and a safe Christmas, all.
I know you're on your way up, but I just want to acknowledge the effort of Doug and his volunteer team. They'll do this every year, and because it starts months before, and certainly on the day of, and even and afterwards. So thank you very much to the community. Thank you.
I'll see you over there. All right. I might leave that at home. You got it. Thanks. Yeah. Brewery Bay is what it's called, right?
Yeah, Brewery Bay.
Yep.
Across the road from the apartment hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15, that depends on you, I think, largely. Okay, the purpose of this meeting is to adopt the 2020 budget. Are there any disclosures of interest based on anything you have seen in this very comprehensive agenda? Councillor Campbell, you have a declaration?
Yes, Mayor Clark. Clause 33, I am an employee of the Township of Severn and will be declaring on that one. Thank you.
The nature of the conflict?
I'm an employee of the Township of Severn.
We'll accept that as nature enough.
Why, thank you.
Any further declarations of conflict, potential conflict? Okay. Jim, Mr. Lang, if you'd be so kind, because the first report is obviously the first report has a number of clauses, 7, and I'll look to our clerical staff. We're capturing that 2019-6, which captures the first 7 clauses of the evening. Is that correct? Right, fair enough. Okay, so the 7 clauses are there, captured right here. Is there a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Moved by Pat, seconded by, moved by Councillor Heen, seconded by Councillor Campbell. I think I'm far too informal for this job. That report number 2019-6 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Discussion. Thank you. Just for clarification for anybody in the audience and maybe perhaps those at home glued to the TV or on the edge of your seat, we have spent quite a number of days and weeks, actually quite a number of months getting to this point. The process starts for staff early in the year. Council gets involved in around July. And then in November, of course, and quite in earnest, we begin having a number of days, 6, 8, 9, 10-hour days, discussing various aspects of budget, operating, capital, water, wastewater, stormwater, parking, etc. And this is really a culmination of all that work and all that deliberation and debate that has gone into the process. And so tonight really is for ratification. So there may or may not be a lot of debate tonight. It depends on the individuals around the council table. So sometimes we'll be capturing, like we often do in reports, part of the agenda or a consent agenda, we'll be capturing a number of the items that we've already gone through and with quite a bit of detail. We'll be capturing those with an encompassing motion. This is one of those. So having said that, is there any further discussion on report 2019-6? I will now call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. And sorry, just for the... Okay, the next items will appear in the following motion. Is there a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor, please? Sorry, Madam CAO, but you are not allowed to put forth resolutions as far as... anyway, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize. I was chatting with Councillor Lara for just a second, but I just want to make sure that these are the items that, in fact, are to be pulled. If you can just take a quick moment, and if there are any further items to be pulled that staff are not aware of, if you could let us know. But
it certainly matches the list that I have, but... I'll give everybody another 4 or 5 seconds here. Thank you. Okay, a mover and a seconder to put this. So thank you, Mason, and thank you, Ted, or Councillors Ainsworth and Iman. That report number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted with the exception of items 3390, 192, 205, 256, 262, 263, 265, 266. Thank you, Ms. Williams, which shall be introduced separately. So you can see how inclusive of an emotion this is. I think I just said an emotion, but that may be true, but an emotion. Any further discussion on the remaining items not captured on the screen? I will now call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. No, I'm guessing we begin to deal with those one by one. And Councillor Campbell's taken his leave. We got a motion on the screen with respect to transit for the Orillia Square Mall in our transit system. Thank you, John, for the reminder. Is there a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Moved by Mason, seconded by Pat. That clause 33 report 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Clause 33 reads as follows. Thank you. That further to the report TRES 2019 B07 dated November 14, 2019 from the Treasury Department, Council approve issue 32 of Schedule I-01 2020 operating budget regarding Orillia Square Mall Transit Service in the amount of a $15,500 decrease to the tax levy requirement, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement. Any discussion on this item? Tim? Oh, indeed. So it's clause 33. It was issue 32 of Schedule I-01, but in this report before us, it's clause 33. So it is indeed right. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. But it'll still be referenced at the top of the resolution. Right, Tim? It's just 89, but it's 90. With respect to waste management contracts, is there somebody willing to put this on the floor? Moved by Rob, seconded by Pat. That Clause 90 of Report Number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Clause 90 reads as follows. That further to the report Trez 2019 B07, thank you very much, dated November 14th, from the Treasury Department, Council approve issue 89 of Schedule I-01 2020 operating budget regarding waste management contracts in the amount of a $528,829 increase. That's right. A $528,000 increase to the tax levy requirement. Any discussion? Tim.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I would like to present an amendment to this this clause. I'd like to reduce it to $350,000, which will relieve the tax levy by approximately 0.25%, I believe, in the anticipation that staff will be able to work this through and come to a little bit more favorable result. I understand the staff is looking into all kinds of options in regards to this contract and providing this service, and so I'd like to be optimistic and reduce this number to 350.
So to be clear, from the chair, we've been presented with this significant increase in the waste management contract. For those listening at home, it's actually doubled, starting in 2020, although in 2020 it's only in effect for half a year because the existing contract goes till June. So it's a $500,000 increase next year, and in 2021, at present, it's a $1 million increase. So you're asking staff to go back and sit down with the proponent and come up with a different number. Is that correct?
I'm suggesting that there should be some alternatives here. There should be some. I think there should be some solutions, and I'm suggesting that if we set the number at 350, that establishes our expectations that we think that we can do this in a more efficient manner. Yes.
Be happy to second that, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Mayor.
I have a seconder to the amendment. Any further discussion on the main motion? Okay, I have a mover and a seconder for the amendment. I'll wait for it to hit my desk. Moved by Councillor Lauer, seconded by Councillor Cipolla, that the motion now before Council be amended by adding the following, with the exception that the following be deleted. $528,829 and replaced with $350,000. Any further discussion on the amendment? We'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Back to the main motion. Would anybody like it reread? I will now call the main motion as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Madam CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may, there was a slight error with respect to this particular motion. There was, I think, a concentrated effort on the amendment during Budget Committee meetings. The amount actually is as presented during Budget Committee, which was $270,000 as opposed to the $32,000. So what we need, Mr. Mayor, is this to be pulled and an amendment made to ensure that it accurately reflects what was presented during Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mason. You're moving it? Okay, thank you. Moving it. A seconder to put this on the floor. Thank you, Pat. that Clause 192 of Report Number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Clause 192, thank you very much, reads as follows. That further to the report TRES 2019 B07 dated November 14, 2019, from the Treasury Department, Council approved the capital project in Schedule C01 2020 Capital Program, page 13, regarding the Orillia Public Library flooring replacement in the amount of $32,000, and that the staff be directed to pursue the hard floor surface option. Any further discussion? Councillor Emond. Councillor, I'm just going to get you to use a...
Back into the thing.
I would like to introduce an amendment to the motion that replaces the $32,000 with $270,000, which is the number and amount that we authorized during our debate and discussion during budget. If there's a seconder, please.
Jay, Councillor Fallis.
Gail gave me the number.
Thank you.
Hope you got one going the other way, Gail.
Moved by Councillor Emond, seconded by Councillor Fallis, that the motion now before Council be amended by adding the following, with the exception that the following be deleted, 32,000, and replaced with the real number, which is $270,000. Any further discussion on the amendment? I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Anybody want the main motion reread? I'll call the main motion question as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, I believe we're on to item 205. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Heen, seconded by Councillor Klustra. That Clause 205 of Report 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Clause 205 reads as follows. That further to the report TRES, thank you, 2019 B07 dated November 14th, 2019, from the Treasury Department, Council approved the capital project in Schedule C01 2020 Capital Program, page 26, regarding municipal parking lot garden renovations and refresh in the amount of $30,000. Councillor Ainsworth.
Yes, through you, Mayor Clark, I will save all of us going through the debate that I posed last week, and I just wanted to pull this so I could vote against it.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the main motion? I'll now call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, with respect to secondary entrance signs, item 256. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Spola, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. The Clause 256, the report number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Clause 256 reads as follows. That further to the report TRES 2019 B07 dated November 14th, 2019, thank you. From the Treasury Department, Council approve the capital project in Schedule C01 2020 Capital Program, page 77, regarding secondary entrance signs in the amount of $100,000. Discussion. Jay.
Thanks. Through the chair. Oh, apologies. Thank you, Mayor Clark. Just speaking to this really briefly, I thought part of this program was a bit, personally, I thought it was an unnecessary feature of the budget. It did get a lot of kickback just in the general public, and so I thought I'd put it up again just for everyone's benefit, and I intended on voting against it. Thanks. Just last comment too. This is one piece of the secondary entry or the entrance signs. There's also the highway ones as well, which I am supporting. However, this secondary one at the within the city, I won't be supporting. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any Tim?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Just for you to Councillor Follis, I'm just curious what kind of negatives were you getting back?
Again, it's just the standard negatives with any budget process you'd expect. Yeah, nothing too jagged or anything.
Okay,
but,
no. I just want to clarify that it wasn't the signs; it was the money, right?
That was more the focus of it. It was this particular one seemed to get a lot of attention. I thought it was one that, just for everyone's benefit, it would be worth reintroducing and just ensuring everyone was still on board with it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Any further discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Item Clause 262, Foundry Park Design Plan. Clause 262, Report 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Clause 262 reads as follows. Further to the report, TRES 2019-B07 dated November 14, 2019 from the Treasury Department, Council approve the capital project in Schedule C01 2020 Capital Program, page 90, regarding a Foundry Park design plan in the amount of $290,000. Discussion. Councillor Cipolla.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Merkley, what are the consequences of delaying this for 1 year? Lost the microphone. It's a design. It's the design. Not yet.
Oh, right here.
If we can get rid of this, it'll bring
It says design plan, but it shouldn't. The motion says design plan, but this isn't the design plan. This is just the plan. Yeah, but the motion says design plan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just while Mr. Merkley is getting the mic, this particular item is with respect to the capital project to enable the grass and the nutrients to be inserted into the soil at 255 West Street.
Indeed. Thank you.
No, that's not it. That's
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we can just get clarification, are we dealing with item number 262?
Correct.
Foundry Park design.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The clarification, just so that we all understand, is the project related to 255 that will enable the grass and the nutrients within the soil.
So it is part of the Foundry Park design plan. It's that aspect of it. Thank you. Further questions, comments? Councillor Follis.
Thanks. Through the chair, this one I really had a particular issue with. I wanted to pull again. I thought there were definitely more affordable options on the table that certainly I'd be happy to support putting in force in the immediate future, but I thought in particular hydro seeding, it wasn't the best, most environmentally minded way forward, and so for this one I'm going to be voting against. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just, could our director of PRC or ESO speak to the environmental soundness of the hydro seeding? Well, that's an issue.
Through Mayor Clark, certainly that's a standard practice of it's just an application process for how you put the seeds down and the nutrients and additives that you're doing. It doesn't particular, there's no environmental risks to that.
Sorry, I apologize. I should add context. It's not environmentally harmful. Just there could be a bit more benefit from going with a different method, and so that's why that would be my preference to turn this down. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Sorry, Mason. Moved by Councillor Iman, seconded by Councillor Heen. That clause 262 of report number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Mason.
Yes, through you, Mayor Clark, I will be reluctantly supporting this item, and I just want to add that this is more money that's going into the rec center, $290,000. But I will be supporting it moving forward. The reasoning for that is essentially if we don't do this, we're going to have this nice new, multi-million-dollar rec center. It's going to be in the middle of not to make any jokes, but in the middle of a brown field. And there's going to be no grass or anything or trees or anything like that that's going to be there. And I think that would be quite awkward, especially when our folks at the back come to the grand opening of the rec center and then they see that it's just surrounded by dirt. I don't think that'd be a very positive story. And with that, I will be supporting this moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Councillor Heen. You're just seconding it. Councillor Iman.
Thank you, Mayor Clare. I do hope we have the grand opening when it's surrounded by snow.
Fair enough. Brown Christmas. All right. Any further discussion on the main motion?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Mr. Merkley's answer to the delay.
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please, Councillor Spola?
What are the consequences of delaying this?
Through Mayor Clark, there'd be two concerns with delaying it. I think one is that the base seating is within the base contract, so they're going to have to. They were going to want to execute that at some point this spring. This is just putting additives in and nutrients into that base thing. Also, I think if you were to delay all of it, then you'd have a year of erosion issues that you're going to have to deal with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Heen.
Yes, there was some concern among some people that that we were going to sod the area once we did this procedure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Merkley, could you please give some indication of what we're going to do with the field?
Yeah, just to be clear, we have the building which occupies how many acres? An acre and a half, Ray, is that right? But an acre and a half plus the parking lot, a few acres. Then we got the environmentally sensitive property at the back of the property, but the rest of the property is kind of what this was referring to. Yeah, so I don't think sodding is an option, but Mr. Merkley, if you want to speak to what we are doing there.
Through Mayor Clark, that's correct. There's about a 21 and a half acre area that'll be naturalized. And so we're putting down a seed mix it'll grow grass that is probably going to be it's not grass like you would mow all the time. It's going to be wispy grass that we'll let get tall. There will be some sodding, but that's only within a meter on each side of all the trails on the way back. So you sod around that, and then you naturalize the rest of it.
Thank you for that context. Councillor Spola, then Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked a question because I gave Mr. Merkley a contact that might bring this in a little less expensive than the 290. So I will be supporting it, but I hope that those avenues of making it a little bit cheaper are investigated.
Thank you very much. Councillor Follis.
Thanks. Through the chair, I just wanted to add a little bit more context because we were discussing this prior, and so I was kind of riding off the previous debate we had. But just to reiterate again, definitely I recognize there's a need to have something planted there this year immediately. It's just more a question of what's there, and you know, my expectation would be if this gets turned down, it would be, you know, it'd come back up to council with an alternative method. But yeah, again, that's reliving the debate, and I just wanted to make sure that comment was clear. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? I'll now call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. All right, item 263. Is there a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Moved by Jay, seconded by Ted. Moved by Councillor Fall, seconded by Councillor Iman. That clause 263 of report number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before Council be adopted. Thank you. Clause 63 reads as follows: that further to the report TRES 2019-B07 dated November 14, 2019 from the Treasury Department, Council approved the capital project in Schedule C01 2020 Capital Program, page 91, regarding the Orillia Recreation Center solar panels and the amount of $30,000 from the Major Capital Facilities Reserve and $210,000 from external funding that would come from a third party. Discussion. Mason.
Through you, Mayor Clark, I'll keep my comment short. Essentially, I just pulled this to vote against it. I know there was a big debate about it last week. I don't want to rehash that because I know the way the majority of council feels, but just wanted to make sure that I did vote against this. Essentially, you know, the small and the short of the matter, I think this money could be better used with other environmental projects throughout the city that would have a greater impact.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, I think we have clause 265 with respect to the unspent capital levy. We did not spend all the money in what we call the CTL, the capital tax levy, and we also allocated an additional $50,000 to the CTL, or capital tax levy. Madam CAO, you wish to weigh in?
Through Mr. Mayor, if I may, this item was just pulled simply because we didn't know the direction that council was going to take on some of the other items. So an abundance of caution, we pulled this to ensure that if there were any changes, we could make those changes. So there were no further changes, Mr. Mayor, so I wouldn't expect any change in this.
The flexibility we ended up not needing this evening. Fair enough. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Mason, seconded by Pat. The clause 265 of report number 2019-7 of Budget Committee now before council be adopted. Clause 265 reads as follows: that a remaining unspent 2020 capital tax levy, $147,000, be allocated to the Major Capitals Facilities Reserve. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is there any discussion? Mason.
Yes, through you, Mayor Clark, I just wanted to point out something about this because I've heard this so many times within the community, especially when it comes to government, that essentially if there's a budget that they spend all of it so that they can get it the next year. This is another example which we pretty much do every year where we have money left over and we don't spend it and then we put it back into reserve. So I just wanted to make sure that was clearly pointed out.
Yeah, a large portion of this is because we decided not to spend money on some of the things that were brought forward in our budget. Fair enough. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This particular item is going to change, and it is going to change because we changed Clause 90, which is the waste management contract. So with that, we just need... Okay.
Motion.
Sorry. Mr. Mayor, if I could, we just have clause 266, which is the motion that needs to be amended. I don't have a mover and seconder for that motion yet, so if we could just do that step first, and then we can introduce the amendment.
I read the motion. Is there a mover and a seconder to put the original motion on the floor? Thank you. Moved by Mason, seconded by Pat. And with that being said, I will now go to the amendment. Is there a mover and a seconder for the amendment? You have a mover second. Thank you. The motion now before council will be amended by adding the following, with the exception of the following be deleted: 61,702,691 and replaced with 61,523,862. Is there any discussion on the amendment to the main motion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Back to the main motion. Would anybody like it reread? I'll call the question on the main motion as amended. All in favor? Carried. To begin winding things down, I've got a motion on the screen to confirm the proceedings. There's a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Councillor Iman. That bylaw number 2019-110, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its special meeting held on December 9th, 2019, be enacted. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the encompassing bylaw? I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Just before we close, if I can use a little bit of liberty from the chair, I just want to explain again for those watching at home. This was a particularly interesting budget process. For a couple of folks around the table, it's their second one. For the rest of us, it's our sixth or seventh. I'm not exactly sure, but enough to know what it generally feels like. This one felt different. We had some pressures coming down through our county governance structure, which was a result of downloading from the province and also from our Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. That with some OPP increases, as well as the waste contract we alluded to earlier. Before we even began deliberations, we were at almost 2%, and which made this, as I say, a particularly difficult budget, which I know many of us struggled with over the last number of weeks. Anyway, just wanted to add a little bit of context. And with that being said, I will... Oh.
Through Mr. Mayor, it is 3.58.
3.58, thank you. And just to put it in full context, assuming, Mr. Lang, assuming that we get the educational adjustment somewhat close to what we have historically, that number should end up somewhere around 3 or maybe even somewhat sub 3. Is that, am I close there?
To you, Mayor Clark. Yes, that's reasonable based on historic adjustments to the education tax rate. Generally, we've been seeing the education tax rate go down each year, and 0.5% to a 0.7% wouldn't be unreasonable, given how the rates have been calculated in the past.
Indeed, but we won't have a full handle on that until springtime.
That's correct. April 2020 is when the province generally announces the tax rates for education.
Indeed, thank you. And listen, I just as difficult a task as this was this year, and I know it started with staff, but I do want to thank council. It was an interesting process this time. There was some lively debate, but I will say always respectful, which I think is a trademark of this council, and I thank you for that. And the council and the staff who put effort into this starting many, many months ago, in particular the SMT and Treasury staff, who many of whom are here tonight. Thank you. I hope that you get to breathe a little bit easier over the next few weeks. Thank you very much to all. A motion to adjourn. Moved by Mason, seconded by Pat. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Have a wonderful, safe night.